I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're speaking with Suzanne Guinn. She is a poet who weaves everyday life into captivating verses in her collection of poems called Poems of Everyday Life, juxtaposing themes of faith, nature, and personal experiences that span from her early years to recent times. Her lyrical exploration of the mundane and the ordinary and the divine creates an intimate, resonating journey for readers, with around half of the anthology imbued with inspirational and Christian themes. It's a delightful book. It is highly recommended. We're delighted to have Suzanne join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Authors Tranquility Press for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel. Suzanne, thanks so much for being our guest today on Spotlight.
Well, thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
This is such a beautiful collection of poems. Is this something you wrote over a number of years, or you wrote specifically for this book? Tell us a little bit about the process.
I actually was encouraged by my high school English teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she had a class called Creative Writing. And so some of my very first poems that I ever wrote started there. Now my phone is ringing. I think I probably had to close that off.
Okay.
So I included one of them, or maybe more than one, but one that comes to mind is The Educated Raccoon, which is a funny little poem, but that is one of them that I wrote in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so off and on down through the years, I would write some poetry, but it's probably just been in the last 6, 8, maybe 10 years that I have written a lot more poetry more often. My kids are grown, I'm retired, so I've had the time to be able to put energy and thought into writing poetry. I have a Facebook account, and so a lot of the friends that have seen my poetry have said, well, you ought to publish, or have you published a book, or different things along this line. And I was originally like, no, I never really published it, never really gave it any thought. But through their encouragement and everything, I decided that I would give it a try. So this is what we ended up with.
Well, we're glad they encouraged you because it is a great book and it's available for us to read now. Tell us how your Christian faith inspires your work.
My Christian faith is my identity, I guess you could say. You can't separate faith from life if you really are committed to it. It's a part of who you are, part of your daily life. And so my commitment to the Lord results in a variety of thoughts that end up in poetry form. It's amusing to me sometimes. I'll be sitting in church and the pastor will make a comment.
Mm-hmm.
Alliteration is lots of times a tool that's used in sermons, and I'm like, I could turn that into a poem. And so I've done that.
Yeah.
Or I hate to say all the time, but I'm thinking it just sometimes it's just a thought that comes to me, or something I see on Facebook, or as I look around nature and I see how God is revealed in creation. That sometimes is another means of um, uh, how a poem will come to me. Some are more humorous, and I'll give you an example. This I haven't written yet, but I've been doing a lot of yard work. And today I was cleaning out the weeds behind a small barn that we have. And once I got them all out, there's different things there that I need to get to, and that's why I got the weeds cleaned out. There's a pile of tin, there's some old tires, and there's some tree stumps. And I thought, hey, three T's, tin, tires, and trees. So I think I'll probably write something humorous about that, but that's just an example of lots of times how I come up with an idea for a poem that comes out of my life experience.
Absolutely. Is there a favorite poem of yours among the many that are in there?
Um, I heard an artist interviewed one time, and he was asked that question: "What is your favorite painting?" And I'll have to agree with his answer. Lots of times, it's the last one that I've written.
Right.
So to pick out one above all the others, they're all my children, and I don't
Yeah.
know theirs.
It's like,
but but there are some that I like how they turned out, maybe more than others. One particular poem that just comes to my mind off the top of my head is one that I wrote in response to the attacks on America on 9/11, and it's called The Eagle's Tear. It's you probably might remember seeing it in there. It's a
yeah.
two-pager, so it's a little bit longer, but it uses the symbolism of the eagle and how the eagle was attacked and how it reacted, and what people were trying to do to this eagle to take it down, but they didn't succeed. And in
Yeah.
fact, that eagle rose up higher and stronger than before because of what experience the eagle had been through. So
Right.
that's probably one of my favorites. And then I have my book right here. Let me just flip through it real quick and see.
If there's one you'd like to read for us, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if there's one that you'd like to read for us, that would be great.
Doing that. This one I kind of like because it's different than how I typically write.
Mm-hmm.
I often write in, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Um, anyway, it's a certain common meter. Anyway, whatever. But
I always forget iambic,
yeah,
pentameter, and
a
I get
certain
them all mixed up.
rhythm, certain pattern, and
Yeah.
C, D, rhyme scheme.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally different. It's called Pictures of Water.
Okay.
And when I wrote it, we were living in Arkansas at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And during the summer program, one of the ladies was in charge of things for the adults. And so she wanted to have a poetry read. So we read this together, um, kind of, oh, yeah, kind of like in church, high state churches where one side of the choir will say something and the other one will respond, and there's a term for it. And I should know what it is, but I can't think of it. But so this is what she and I did, taking turns going back and forth.
Mm.
Okay, so this is what I have the poem reads. Puddles, pictures of water, and this first half is about the summer. Puddles, pools, foam, fun, spray, sun, tributaries, sanctuaries, waves, swells, tides, wells, drips, drizzles, drops, frizzles, angry, gentle, blinding, mental, flooding, fury, torrents, hurry, moisture, misty, moody. I'm not going to read all of it, but that continues on in that idea for summer. Winter, here are some of the thoughts on how pictures of water we see in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Peaks, holes, peaks, place, slow pace,
Mm-hmm.
conversation, transportation, crystals, falling, quiet, falling, freezing, chilling, bone drilling, avalanches, landscape blanches, crushing, rafting, blanket, drafty, glaciers thawing, gouging, clawing, farm pond skating, snowmen making, ice blocks, icebergs, snow peaks, snowbirds, snowflakes, snowfalls, snowdrifts, snowballs. And then it concludes with renewing, life-giving, refreshing the living, limpid and languishing, shallow and still, quietly laughing, blubbering, gaffing, boisterously bawling, easily calling, deep and moving, roving at will, death, strife, peace. Pictures of water.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. Very creative, very expressive, simple in its structure, yet very imaginative. Loved it. Love it. You are not only a poet, you're also an artist. Tell me a little bit about your artwork.
Well, like my poetry, I've actually been doing some kind of art since I was a child. My mother used to tell the story that I would sit in church and draw boxes and stairs in three-dimensional format. I really didn't give it much thought, but I can kind of remember doing that. I've fiddled with art off and on through childhood. In fact, I had a friend of the family that gave me a box of pastel chalks, or pastels, as they're correctly called, when I was in high school. And so a lot of my early work was done in pastels. And then down through the years, I've taken classes. I have done some research of my own and done some self-study. I've taken some private lessons. I've taken some college classes. And then 3 years ago, this past May, well, in the spring, I started researching the possibility of taking some online classes. I'd always wanted to get an art degree, but as life happens, it took me in a different direction, and I ended up getting a bachelor's degree in music, marrying a man that became a pastor, and having our children and raising them. And so I also worked part-time, part of the time. When I was 50, I went back to school and got my master's degree in library science and worked in the library field for several years. And then when I retired, I got thinking one day, I always wanted that art degree, and I'm definitely not getting it younger. And so I began to look online to see what classes, what schools offered online classes. And I found one. It's the Academy of Arts University out of San Francisco. And so I contacted them and got information. I enrolled and was able to then pursue getting my master's degree in fine art. It's an MAFA, more well known as the MFA degree, but it's 2 more years beyond what I did. So I enrolled and I started doing that, and I finished a year ago last month.
Wonderful.
So when I enrolled, they asked me, what do you want to do with that? Well, okay, I'll tell you this. There's the standard question you never ask a woman her age. I was 71 when I started the classes with the Academy of Art. And when the counselor interviewed me previously to getting enrolled, he said, well, what do you want to do with your art? And I said, well, obviously I'm not interested in starting a new career at this point in my life, but I like the idea that I can express my art or express myself through various mediums of art. And if there's something that somebody likes, I'd be glad to share it with them. I have also even thought, although I haven't pursued it this past year, and I'll explain why in a minute, but I've thought about trying to contact organizations like the Salvation Army or other organizations that work with women, trying to rehabilitate them. And then when they get to the point where they are ready to establish their own home again, what are the last things that they're concerned about? is decorating their house. They need to have a job. They need to be able to have transportation. They need to
Hmm.
be able to pay their bills. The last thing that they're going to be thinking about is hanging a picture on the wall.
Hmm.
And so my thought has been to contact some of these organizations to see if they would be interested in either having some of my paintings or having a catalog or something that
Hmm.
these women could go and pick out after they've completed the program and they've been approved by Salvation Army or whoever the program is. Then they could pick out a painting to hang up on that.
Hmm.
And so I came up with the idea of crowning touch artistry,
Hmm.
because a painting so often is the last thing that you will hang in your room or your living room or whatever, especially if you're working on interior decoration.
Hmm.
And so that painting is the crowning touch, or the piece of the resistance. The last thing that you want to do is get your room all ready, have all the walls painted, have that kind of painting done, and then get it all set up. And then you bring in an original piece of art that you like and hang it on the wall.
Wonderful.
So it's the crowning touch to what you're doing in your life.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's been my goal of what I've wanted to do. Now, like I mentioned, I've been out for a year, but I think I have ADD because I have so many different interests. I have a bachelor's degree in music. I play the piano, and I've gotten involved in a local orchestra. And so this past year, I took some music classes
Hmm.
at a local community college. And so some of my time, or a lot of my time, has been taken up this past year with working on that. So I haven't been able to bring to fruition yet the ideas that I have for painting, but
Hmm.
hopefully I'll be able to do that soon. I've sold a few, but it's mostly been by word of mouth. So I have a few here if you would like me to show the folks if they'd
Oh,
like to see.
sure. Absolutely. Love to see.
Um, and I don't know with the light how this is going to work, but this one,
Hmm.
let's see, I've
That's beautiful.
got to work opposite of
That
the
looks
camera.
like somebody hard at work at their desk with the light shining down over them.
This is a lamp that has a clear glass lampshade, so the light is shining through it. And
Hmm.
it sits on an antique music cabinet
Hmm.
between my piano and a bookcase. And you'll see here a figurine. There's also one around the side, but this one is of Jesus with some children.
Hmm.
And because of that and the light,
Yeah.
I've entitled this Jesus, the Light of the World.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love the lights. I love the colors. I love the linear nature of the painting.
And this is done in colored pencil.
Yeah.
It's one medium.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Beautiful.
I probably do more in oil than I do anything else, but
Hmm.
being the fact that like I get bored if I stick with one thing all the time. Here is, let's see, I gotta figure out which way to go. This
That's
is
a
watercolor.
beautiful landscape scene.
This one is called, what is that called? It's the fields behind home is what it is. This is the actual field that was behind my parents' home when I was growing up.
Hmm.
And I laid it out in such a way that these branches, that you can't see, there we go, are exactly the way the branches were on the tree that was behind the house.
Amazing. That's beautiful. Very beautiful.
Um,
And it's panoramic too, which I like as well.
this one is just a still life,
Hmm.
water, watercolor.
Beautiful. But,
I,
very realistic, the textures and the colors. And yeah, very nice.
and these last three that I have are done in oil, so there's no glass on it. It'll make it easier to see. This was a friend of mine, and her dog Sunny.
Hmm.
Um,
That's beautiful. She
You know,
must love that you took made such a beautiful picture of her with such a
oh,
cute dog.
he is,
Yeah.
and I won't take the time to go into, but there's a story behind her and Sonny.
Hmm.
Has since had to be put down when he was having some health issues. And so, as people tend to say, he's gone over Rainbow Bridge.
Very nice.
Now, I have two more. This last one
Sure.
is probably my favorite.
Wow, that's beautiful. I love deer as well, and you've really captured a magnificent animal.
We
Yeah.
lived in Arkansas for a few years.
Hmm.
There's a resort area down there called Horseshoe Bend,
Hmm.
and there's a herd of deer that live there, and they're semi-tame. I don't think you can go up to them and touch them, but they're used to people being around. And so I went up there one day and took some pictures. And
It's amazing. That's great.
this
And
is
you
one.
very varied too, everything from still life to animals to landscapes.
Yeah,
And that looks like it's a little Florida inspired.
this is. I got involved with a Christian mentoring program,
Hmm.
and one of the things that the mentor has talked about is letting the Lord speak to you to inspire you.
Hmm.
And the comment was made about the verse in the Bible that says, "By your fruits you shall know them."
Yeah.
So the idea of doing an orange tree is what came to my mind. And so the name of that particular piece is By Their Fruits.
That they're all beautiful, they're all unique, they're all different. You should be very proud of your work. And
Thank
I'm
you.
sure you're used to getting high praise because it's very, very good. You've written another book. It's called Love Roses, or why don't you show
Uh,
it to us again?
uh, well, the original one is Poems of Everyday Life, that you mentioned. And
Yep.
then this one called Heart
Art
Songs.
songs. Art
Yes.
songs. Art
Poems of,
songs, paintings, and poetry. And it is written by Suzanne Guinn and painted by Suzanne Guinn. That cover is beautiful. The pictures inside are beautiful as well. You were showing us some before.
see if I get there. Now it doesn't glare. And that's a painting I did. That's an abstract.
Very nice.
It's got crackling on it so that if you could see it in person, you could see some of the cracks.
Yeah, very
And
nice.
here's, I have paired up poems that I've written,
Hmm.
the pictures that are paintings or artwork that I have done. And let me just quickly glance through here. Um, and I will see if I can find one that would. Okay, this gives you an example of some artwork that I haven't showed you. Uh,
Hmm.
this is in pencil. This is in charcoal.
Hmm.
See, this one is a picture of Christ putting on his sandal.
Mm.
You can see that.
Yep, I can. Absolutely.
And I'll read you the poem that I put with it. The sandal has a story to tell as Moses' feet went up a hill. From there he saw the promised land that would be trod by the Son of Man. The sandal tied to Boaz's feet was used to make a plan complete. For he, Naomi's girl, would wed, redeeming Ruth by God was led. Then Jesus came, sorry,
It's
then
okay.
Jesus came calling to man, his shoe-clad feet walking the land. Then one night, friends, shoes removed, be servants men, he then behoved.
Mm.
From Pisgah's heights through fields of grain, or Judah's hills in sun and rain, sandals carry redemption's story, bringing it to sinners, to God be the glory. Sandals, though the lowest of the clothing, takes us through life of soil and loathing. Through faith in God, we now understand the sandals were used in redemption's plan.
Mm. Beautiful.
I've tried to, all of these that are in here, um,
It's a great interpretation. It's a great poem, beautiful painting. Wonderful.
What a variety of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Harp song, and it's on Amazon.
wonderful.
I think it's probably on Barnes and Noble.
That's a beautiful book to have on your coffee table for reading, enjoying, for sharing. You're quite a creative woman. You're doing a great job there. And you've tapped into many different aspects of your creativity, which is great. Yeah. Very
Poetry,
fulfilling, I'm sure.
I will admit, poetry is not a big seller,
Right.
but poetry is a type of thing that you can sit down some evening, you've worked hard, you put your feet up, maybe you got a cup of coffee or a glass of Coke or something, and you just want to relax, and you can pick up something like this and go through it.
That's what I said. Yeah, at the end of a busy day, to flip through that book, all the beautiful, peaceful paintings, all of the beautiful poetry that you have in there. I think it's wonderful, wonderful. Before we leave you today, is there anything you'd like our audience to know or anything you'd like to add to our conversation?
Well, if they're interested, there is a second edition of this one, and it's the same title.
Mhm.
The second edition you can get in hardback.
Okay.
The original one, well, the second, you can get the softback in either hard, I'm not trying to say that.
First edition or second edition?
First or second edition, you can
Yep.
get in.
Gotcha. But if you want the hardcover, you need to get the second edition.
And
Yep.
they're both on Amazon.
Wonderful.
West Bow Press is who published my first edition. It's available on their website. You can also find it on Barnes and Noble. You can search Google Books and you can find it there. So, and the same is true with my second book. So,
Wonderful. Well, we'll have all the links below this article, this interview, so people can click the links and buy the book if they wish. It's highly recommended. It's a beautiful book to have in your house. It's a great daily devotional of poems and poetry. Both books are actually. So look for Suzanne Guinn on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, and you're in for a treat because the books are beautiful and they're just a delight to read and look at. Suzanne, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
right. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed it as well, enjoyed speaking with you. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time until next time on Spotlight.